Hi, I'm Ksenia. Thanks so much for joining me for this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with all the details and the lowdown on what is going on in the sky in the week ahead and how it's going to apply to you. Now, as usual, before I begin, I always give a bit of a spiel and an intro about what is happening in the sky, and then we go on to break down the application of what I talk about for each sign. And I'll spell out right from the start. If you want to look at all three, sun, moon, and rising signs, you can do so. It will apply. But generally, I use whole sign astrology, and the rising sign will be the most telling, the most influential on your life in the week ahead. So much to explore in this week's astral skies. One thing I do want to share with you though, and this is just to share my experience, my journey, hoping that it might be able to help other people, that it might be able to support other people with the difficult energies that are going on right now. Currently, what I'm experiencing is a Pluto square to my moon and Uranus, because they're conjunct. I'm also experiencing Saturn opposition to my sun, and of course the new moon that occurred last week made an exact square to my sun, which Saturn is also opposing. So let me just say, I'm feeling quite anxious at the moment. My energy vibration is suffering because of these energies, and it is it's a very difficult time for me energetically right now. And, we astrologers are not immune to the energies of the universe. In fact, usually great astrologers, I'm not saying I am a great astrologer, but people who make good astrologers, they are sensitive to the energies. So they pick up, they understand, they feel it, and therefore they know what it brings because they tap in, so to speak, energetically to the influences of the energies around us very strongly. So if you're someone who's sensitive that way to the energies of the planets, and you can feel them coming, you can feel it building, you sense things energetically in your body, then you probably would make a very good astrologer, certainly an intuitive astrologer. But these configurations that are going on in my sky right now have left me feeling very anxious and frustrated, and certainly under the new moon influence last week. As I spoke of in my video last week, I had a bit of a meltdown or an explosion, knowing full well that that's what was predicted, but hey, it still happened. What has helped me is to focus on spirit, and I said last week in the video that going into spirit would be a way out because of the Jupiter-Neptune connection. And it certainly helped me regain my balance when I was feeling, out of it. And how I did that was I have a beautiful circle of spiritual friends that I connect with here in Australia on a regular basis. We support one another. We are each other's mentor team, and it's a blessing to have that. One of my mentor team is a beautiful woman named Helen Paige, and Helen is a channeler. She's amazing. She is such a gifted channeler. Oh my God, she would blow your mind with what she can do. Absolutely incredible. Anyhow, I utilized one of Helen's amazing meditations that she provides, and it's a meditation. I want to tell you a little bit about it. I'm getting no kickback from this. This is simply because I believe in her work, and her work has supported me. Her meditation, which is $20 on her website, I'll put the link in the description below. But this meditation is Mirror, Mirror, Be Your Own Medical Intuitive. And she in this package for $20, she provides guided meditations for 2 powerful healing sessions, and they really are healing sessions. You learn to sense the areas of your body that are suffering, that are under stress and under strain and feeling wounded. She helps you to identify the 12 power centers in the body, and in order to bring these back into spiritual alignment within you, to bring physical balance back within you. These meditations, and this is the part I love the most, they actually help to energize or activate your own intuitive capacity, your own ability to intuit what's going on in your body and in the world around you. There's a beautiful component to these meditations that involves releasing hidden traumas. And can I just say, under Pluto retrograde, there has never been a better time. We're going to talk about Pluto retrograde in a minute. Never been a better time to actually explore the releasing of hidden traumas. if you're looking for a supportive mechanism to do that, the energy of the stars right now will help you, and this meditation is designed to assist you in doing that as well. The other thing that I loved about these meditations was that it focuses and hones in on releasing genetic and family patterns, attitudes, traumas, and beliefs. All that information that affects our physical body, our emotional body, and our mental health. And really, it's designed to dissolve those things out of our system, out of our psyche, out of our body, out of every piece of us. So what Helen does is allows you to take control of your body and you to be your own, as the title suggests, own medical intuitive. So again, I just reiterate, if you are looking for some healing right now because you're being activated in a similar way to I am, by Pluto particularly, which is all about traumas from the past, karmic traumas. Pluto is also about healing those karmic traumas, shining a torchlight onto them, revealing them, exposing them, so that you can dissolve them and let them go. If this is something you're working with at the moment, then Eleanor's $20 meditation package, and that's in Australian dollars too, so very cheap if you happen to be, working in euros or working in US dollars, that can really assist you in that process. The link is below, and I hope it's a blessing to you as it's been a blessing to me. And thank you to all those beautiful people who connected with me on my Instagram and Facebook pages over the last week, where I'm doing a daily oracle card encouragement session for 5 minutes every morning. It's just my gift to the world to provide that through the use of various oracle card decks, giving us a message of hope and inspiration. It enhances my life to do that, and I'm certainly enjoying putting it out there for everybody who might need that bit of a boost. So do check out my Facebook and Insta pages if you're interested in following along and getting a bit of daily dose of astrology coupled with oracle card insight. Now, I don't know if you can hear the birds outside today, whether they're interfering with the video's audio or not, but my goodness, they're going nuts. The parrots, the magpies, all outside in my garden. Oh my goodness, I wish you could hear how beautiful it is if you can't, but it's I just wanted to share that if you hear some interference or some loud noise, it's probably the birds going crazy. So there's two components we want to look at in this week's weather. The first one is the fact that, and this has already happened on the 25th of April, Pluto turned retrograde. And I wanted to address this because we are under this influence until the 4th of October. So it's ongoing and we will feel it. Now, usually with the outer planets, when they turn retrograde, the intensity that we feel, it's less than, say, something like Mercury. When Mercury goes retrograde, oh my God, do we notice when Mercury goes retrograde? Or when Venus in Gemini will go retrograde? We're going to really notice that as well. The outer planets, when they go retrograde, we tend not to notice as much, and that's simply because, in this case, Pluto spends about 5 months of the year in retrograde motion in the sky. So we're actually familiar with it. It's not unusual to us. We get it quite often for a big chunk of time, so we're familiar with it. But this year, it is obviously a very interesting year, and no one's denying that it is a year of upheaval. And Pluto going retrograde will have some specific impacts this year because of the nature of what is playing out en masse this year as it is. Now, Pluto retrograde, or any retrograde planet for that matter, represents an intensification of the energy of that planet, because the planet is at its closest point in the solar year, in this case, to Pluto. The Earth is at its closest point to Pluto, and obviously when we're closer, the energies are more intense. What happens is, when a planet is retrograde, it looks like it's going backwards in the sky. It's not really. It just looks like it is from our vantage point here on Earth. And because of that, and because of the close proximity, the energies of that planet are intensified. And what does Pluto rule? Pluto rules obsessions. Pluto rules jealousies. Pluto rules intensity. Pluto rules power. Pluto rules control. Pluto also rules truth and the illumination of truth. Pluto is known as the ego smasher, Whenever Pluto is doing a work in your life, as I described earlier, he's doing in my life throughout last year and this year by a square to my moon. Whenever he's doing that deep, intense work, he's shining a light on your hang-ups, your attitudes, your beliefs, who you think you are, and any ego attachments that you have to yourself, to possessions, to the world, and he's shining a light on those. Now, if we do the work with Pluto, we work to dissolve those things before he gets his hands on them. Because if he gets his hands on them and we're resisting the change that he wants to bring, he will smash us. That's why he's the ego smasher. He will throw us against the rocks in an attempt to release us of that which we cling to, which no longer serves us. So I just want to encourage everybody, do work during Pluto season. Go deep into therapy. And you don't have to pay a fortune to a psychologist. You can do your own therapy. Like I said, $20 to Helen Paige to get this this meditation process that's going to help you release these blockages. That's a good thing. Or, read a book about releasing blockages. Journal about it. Do some dance therapy about it. Do a painting about it. Do your own therapy in whatever way works best for you. But during Pluto retrograde season until October, it is the time for focusing on those things and letting go of all that hinders, all that holds you back, lest you end up smashed against the rocks by Pluto. Now at this time, and I'll just point this out in the chart, down here is where Pluto sits in Capricorn at roughly 24 degrees at the moment, and right beside Jupiter. So whatever Jupiter touches, Jupiter expands, multiplies, blows out of proportion. So we are in a very interesting retrograde season of Pluto that happens once every 12 years when the conjunction with Jupiter occurs. And of course, all Pluto's qualities get blown out of proportion. Massive power struggles, super intense emotions. We get control issues. Hello, what are we seeing around the globe? Now, I'll talk about what we can expect to see through this the next few months while Pluto's retrograde globally in just a minute. I'm just talking general to begin with. So again, the amplification of the exposure of secrets, the exposure of the truth. These are the themes of Jupiter conjunct Pluto retrograde for 2020. We can also become a lot more focused, a lot more driven, a lot more intense and pinpointed in our intent because of this conjunction and Pluto retrograde now. And because of Pluto's nature as the ego smasher, we can also expect that illumination is going to occur on things that have been hidden. The secrets, the lies, the deceptions, they're going to be revealed now under this influence over the next few months until October the 4th. So some of the negative energies, and look, we can see both positive and negative in this. Every planet, every sign, every house has a shadow and light quality like the yin-yang symbol. You'll hear me say that often when I teach astrology because it's true. It's up to us whether we manifest the negative energy represented by the skies or the positive energy. We get that choice. So the negative energies, it helps to know what they are, of Pluto-Jupiter conjunction while Pluto is retrograde, is we might ourselves become more selfish, or we might see out in the world people becoming more grasping, people becoming more selfish and self-oriented now. Greediness within us and without us as well, externally too. One thing that we may see pop up quite strongly is a feeling of victimization. Poor me, I've missed out. You've done, wrong by me. It's not fair. Poor me kind of attitudes that might come out. Some of these will be justified naturally, but especially when we're living in such difficult times. But we're going to see this energy there, and we might see people taking advantage of circumstances because they feel like they're a victim. Now, many astrologers are actually predicting that we're going to see a resurgence of the virus because of Pluto going retrograde at this time. I'm not sure about that. I would like to see something different come of this energy, but that is my preference. My seeking of the higher energy levels, which we'll talk about in a minute, would tell me that if we can manifest at a higher level vibrationally, then that doesn't have to happen. it all depends where we're at as a vibrational community on planet Earth. But look, it could happen that we might see an explosion of the virus again. And again, this may last up until October the 4th, where it'll be coming and going and there. Obviously, Pluto represents crisis, and Jupiter is an expansion of crisis, and Pluto retrograde is an intensification of crisis because he's closer to planet Earth, his energy is stronger, and we get an intensification of crisis that is sort of exponential with Jupiter involved in the mix as well. We can also see extreme control start to come out, and I mentioned this a moment ago. In Capricorn, it's governmental systems and hierarchical organizations now seeking even further stringent control methods when Pluto goes retrograde. So we're all in Australia, I think in France as well, probably in other countries too, hopeful that, May 11th, everything's going to lift, everything's going to change. And look, that's interesting. May 11th is when Saturn will go retrograde. And so, that's probably quite telling in itself, but that's for a future astrological weather report. We're all hoping that the lockdown and so forth is actually going to lift and we'll be able to get back to some sense of normality. Pluto retrograde in Capricorn with Jupiter kind of indicates that we might be disappointed in that regard. We might see greater lockdowns, greater control, greater stringency in some way. Now, it doesn't mean that lockdown will continue. It might mean that it manifests in some other way. Pluto is things like taxes, money, resources that are communal is ruled by Pluto in the modern sense. And because of that, we might see restrictions around communal resources. We might see difficulty with regard to taxes. They're going to have to sort out this financial mess somehow, and usually it'll be, those of us who pay taxes that'll suffer. So the restrictions and the hard-headed control might come into play in those realms, ruled also by Pluto. We might see an expansion, Jupiter, of secrecy and paranoia, Pluto things as well. So what can we do? These are the negative things that we might be seeing over the next few months until October the 4th in this crazy, crazy year of 2020. Well, we need to channel the higher energies of these two and particularly focus in this case on the Jupiter energies, the Jupiter benefic qualities. He is the great benefic after all. So this will be to enact more kindness to one another, to be more compassionate with one another, more tolerant, more patient, more forgiving with one another, to seek the spiritual side of life. Pluto does have a connection to spirituality. Pluto it rules in the modern sense, the sign of Scorpio, which has connections to shamanism and alternative sort of left of center spirituality. So there is that element there as well. So by immersing ourselves in astrological systems and discovery, by immersing ourselves maybe in sort of shamanic practices or rituals that have to do with sort of, maybe ancient Celtic or pagan ceremonies and that sort of thing, exploring those realms can be very healthy right now under this influence, and it's actually a higher level to take things to rather than greed and jealousy and paranoia, things that have been present in my life over the last weekend with all that's going on. If we focus on these positives at this time, then the promise is opportunity through this crisis. And I've said this a lot lately in my videos, but Jupiter-Pluto is a conjunction of, what they call it, the millionaire's conjunction, the millionaire's signature, to have Pluto and Jupiter conjunct. And of course, we all want more power, more wealth, more prosperity, more abundance in our life so that we can do good, so that we can be kind, so that we can have a more compassionate approach to life, because life is more secure when we have resources and we're not living on the street or without a job or homeless or hungry, that sort of thing. So we do need those resources. And by channeling spirit at the moment, and by getting in touch with your spiritual side, by being compassionate, by being kind, you're actually lifting the level of this vibration that opens up, maybe you're not going to become a millionaire, but more opportunity for prosperity in your own life, for expansion in your own life, for grace to enter into your own life. So by seeking the higher levels of this and acknowledging when you feel jealous, acknowledging when you feel paranoid, acknowledging when, you've kept something secret and hidden and you really should have brought it out into the light. By being truthful and honest about those things within you, you kind of dissipate their energy, and you shine a light on them, let them go, release them, and you can therefore move into the greater capacity of this energy, which is immersion in spirit, that can lead to inner prosperity, inner abundance, and inner growth and expansion. This is the promise of what's going on for the next few months, Pluto, Jupiter, and Pluto retrograde in this case. If you really want to go deep with this, then I'd encourage you to do work not only around releasing attitudes and beliefs that no longer serve you and so on, but forgive. Jupiter is forgiveness. Release and let go of anyone who has manipulated you, anyone who has abused you, anyone who's dominated you, anyone who's done wrong by you. Now, Pluto-Jupiter conjunction is here to support you in letting those people go and shedding that skin, like the snake that sheds its skin. Getting out there and having a new life free from that burden, free from that uncomfortable, too tight old skin that you're still wearing. So never has there been a better time than this one to do the inner work, to release old systems of thought and also fully forgive and release people who caused you harm and wounded you. During Pluto retrograde season, with this Jupiter involved as well, you can expect fated events, like seriously fated karmic events, where you might come across past life stuff or past life issues might come up for you, but also fated people might come into your life, fated circumstances, fated opportunities. Never has there been a better time for that. You might notice now, and it's certainly worth observing, any repeating themes that keep coming up over and over again in your life. Maybe it's repeating themes around relationships. Maybe it's repeating themes around work. Maybe it's repeating themes around self-identity and self-love. Pluto retrograde season also is a time when we can be forced to let people go. So not only is it healthy for us to forgive and let go of people who've hurt us, but sometimes we see a forced letting go of people, but also places, things, circumstances that are just like taken from us. Now that might sound scary to some people, but I don't know, sometimes we have trouble letting go of things that we know we need to release ourselves from. We know we need to step out of our own way, and this is a time that supports us in doing that easily. So, you've got your drug addict brother who's all set to move in and live with you, and you're like, gosh, I just don't want to let him because, I know he's just going to make my life hell. And you just haven't got the courage to put the boundaries in place. Pluto retrograde can actually force that to happen. Pluto is a very, very strong energy that will enable you to do that sort of thing now, and might even do it on your behalf without you having to do anything. So this forced removal of people out of your life is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes what's got to go is what's got to go. That drug addict brother that you love him, but God, you just don't want him in your house ruining your life. That's a prime example of a situation where Pluto could step in, this Pluto energy could step in and force the removal of that from your life, which is actually a blessing. So don't think that having people taken out of your life is necessarily going to be horrible. Sometimes it's very necessary. And by taken out of your life, I don't mean they're going to die in a car crash or something like horrible. No, they're just going to be no longer in your sphere, in your life, okay? The other thing that Pluto retrograde can instigate is forced releasing of obsessions, paranoias, fears. Bring it on, I say. I'm all for that. I want to be free of those intense hang-ups. It's also a powerful time for detoxing from addictions. So if you have always wanted to give up chocolate, or you've always wanted to give up your addiction to some stupid reality TV show, or if you're into more serious addictions that you want to give up, then under this influence you have the power to do it. Pluto is all about taking your power back. And if you've given your power away to various addictions, then this is the time, Pluto retrograde, when the intensity amps up and gives you what you need, the momentum, the drive to actually take your power back. To say, I'm sorry, you addiction to chocolate, but you're no longer allowed in my life, and I'm taking my power back. And you can do that now. In fact, anything that is a hindrance to your enlightenment, and that's what addictions are. Addictions are hindrances to our enlightenment. They can go now. So if anything is standing in the way of your progress as a soul, your understanding, your empowerment as a person incarnate on planet Earth, then it can go now. It can release now, and you can detox from those hindrances as well. With Jupiter involved here, what this tells me is that this period of time is our chance to receive back spiritual power, to take back our own spiritual power. I love this concept because it doesn't matter what lockdown, restrictions are forced upon us, what circumstances we find ourselves in. Where we have complete control is over our own inner spirit. Jupiter-Pluto is a gorgeous reminder of that, of taking back our spiritual power. You have a right to choose what you believe and to allow that to be at your core, in your soul, part of your journey. So whether that's a belief in atheism, whether that's a belief in God, whether that's a belief in, whatever, science, it doesn't matter. You have the right to have your own spiritual belief right now. And that is something that you can really receive and channel strongly, taking back your spiritual power when Pluto is retrograde conjunct with Jupiter. So my prayer is that for all of us, we can actually stand on our own 2 feet with our own spiritual beliefs and take back our spiritual power, especially in circumstances of life where it's been taken from us. So for that reason, I'm thankful to Pluto retrograde. I think it is going to be an empowering season for many people who choose to work at the higher levels, and it could also be a very confronting season for the world. Let's hope and pray that it manifests in the positive sense. Let's all, in fact, direct our energy to lifting this world global energy through prayer or meditation or whatever kind of spiritual practice that lifts you up. Let's devote ourselves to that work in order to avoid the potential negative consequences of Pluto-Jupiter conjunction while Pluto is retrograding for the next 5 months. The other big event that is happening this week is the nodes changing signs. Here they are here, moving into the sign North Node in Gemini, South Node in Sagittarius. This is happening on the 6th of May in Australia. That's next Wednesday. What does it mean when the nodes change signs? Well, the last time the nodes were in Sagittarius and Gemini this way was in 2001, and it happened the month that we saw the Twin Towers in New York get hit, 9/11. So, now, I'm not saying that we're about to enter into some big terrorist crisis again. The rest of the planets are in different spots to where they were back then, and that influences things also as well, obviously. But we usually see when the nodes change signs, there's some sort of dramatic shift that can occur in the world in some way, and that's certainly going to happen this time round as well. We're in dramatic times as it is, so what's new? Now there is some good news with this particular nodal change though, and I love this because what we're seeing here is the North Node, and it is making a trine to the moon on the day that it changes signs, and a trine to Mars on the day that it changes signs, thus creating a grand trine energy from Mars and the moon. I find this very hopeful. This means there'll be action with this particular change of the nodes into a new sign. Action and a feeling of emotional resonance that we might have with whatever's going on in the world, momentum. the moon rules nurturance. So what I feel may be the result of this change on this day, I'm not saying for the next 18 months while the nodes are in these signs, but around this time next week, we might see some action regarding the nurturing protective qualities. The moon is to nurture and to protect. Mars is action and warrior energy, and the North Node is our future direction, in this case as a collective. We might see some action, some nurturing, some protection regarding our future as humans. So we might see some sort of shift next week that is positive in those regards. You know, maybe we'll see an energy of greater caring, greater love, greater kindness that is enacted in the world in some way. And I certainly hope so. It's for our future destiny. It could really bring some benefit to see those sorts of things. Please do share if you observe this energy playing out in some way in your personal life or in the world around you. Share about it in the comments below, because we love to see how these energies manifest at a personal level, but also at a global level and collective level as well. Now, depending on what system you use, and I'm not going to go into the explanation of the differences here, it would just make the video way too long, but it is the true node that is changing signs on the 6th of May. The mean node, if that's what you use in astrology, that won't be happening until the 17th of May when that changes signs. So I'm talking about the true node here. Now, let's talk about the nodes and what they mean in general. In ancient astrology, before the discovery of Uranus and Neptune and Pluto, the nodes of the moon had they considered them to have similar energy to that of Saturn and Jupiter. These days we kind of correlate them a little bit more with Uranus, but back in ancient times, the North Node was considered to have more of the energy of Jupiter, and the South Node the energy of Saturn. But giving this sort of black and white approach to the nodes really doesn't help our evolution as a species and as individuals. Saying, well, the North Node's good and the South Node's bad, Saturn's good, Jupiter's good, Saturn's bad, that's very unhelpful in astrology. We need to recognize, as I say all the time, and I've said before in this video, everything has shadow and light in it. There is benefit and there is obstruction or difficulty, if you like, as well in every planet, every house, every sign, including the nodes. So the North Node has some great qualities to it. It's what we desire more of. It's what we hunger for. It's what we are learning to master in this lifetime, and what we will tend to get more of as life goes on. It's also toxic. It can represent toxicity. It's also very insatiable, and it doesn't let up. It doesn't give us a rest, and it's considered a malefic point in Vedic astrology as well. But the South Node, it has an energy of that which we've mastered, what we have accomplished well and done really good in past lifetimes and learned the lessons of in past lifetimes. But on the shadow side, it now represents what's misty to us, what's foggy to us, what we need to let go of and sort of release. In shamanic astrology, Daniel Giamario suggests that the question we need to ask surrounding the placement of the nodes is, what is the lesson with the South Node that we need to learn to release? And I'm talking now as a collective when we experience the nodes in these signs for the next 18 months. What is the lesson that we need to release as a collective? And with the North Node, what is the lesson that we need to master for the next 18 months as the North Node moves through Gemini? And indeed, these signs tell us about the lessons of releasing and the lessons of mastery. We're going to explore what they are, and I'll go through each house in a minute and let you know what each house represents, depending on what's your rising sign, sun sign, or moon sign. It's also important when I get to that point to note that the house placement of the nodes is much more important than the sign placement, for the simple fact that we're going to have this experience of, say, the North Node in Gemini for the next 18 months. So it's a very generational influence. It's not very personal, but the houses change every 2 hours on the horizon. And so whatever house this falls in for you actually has a greater strength, a greater significance. In another context, when we're looking at karmic or evolutionary astrology, the South Node represents the past, the North Node represents the future of our lives as a collective. So we want to explore that as well in a minute too. One thing that one of my teachers, Ernst Wilhelm, tells us to look out for when we have the nodes in Sagittarius and Gemini this way is that we can sort of, the hiccup that we need to be careful of as a collective and as individuals during this time is that we might sort of give up on making decisions or give up on planning. Even for some of us, we might feel like giving up on life in these signs. And instead, we tend to look to the past. Oh, wasn't it good when we could freely go about wherever we wanted to and we weren't in lockdown? And we get lost in the past, lost in what things were like, and I wish it was the way it was back then. And we keep thinking things were better, happier, and this is the thing we need to be very careful of during this time, where we get caught up in what was instead of where we're going, and the realization in this instance that this is a birthing period. We're in the labor pains right now of being birthed into something fresh, something new, potentially something quite wonderful for humanity. So do watch out for that, which is one of the signatures of the nodes in Gemini that can be that way, thinking things were always better in the past. So firstly, what things are we going to see beginning to dissolve now with the South Node in the sign of Sagittarius? We're going to see the things that we'd put our faith in, our hope in, our trust in, begin to crumble, because wherever the South Node is what is going to be dissolved and released. So maybe that's a belief system for you. You'd always believed that life should work a certain way, and then it turns out that it doesn't. Or, maybe you believed that the government had your best interests at heart, and suddenly through some revelation you realize that they don't. Or we might see generally on a larger scale worldwide the dissolving of belief systems. Maybe we might see churches start to really diminish, or we might see certain not just religions, but beliefs in atheism might go through a sort of a dying phase as well. But whatever we put our beliefs in, we can see there might be some dissolution of that, some dissolving of that collectively and individually now. In the past, we have put a lot of our security in our belief systems. We've attached security to belief systems, to the big churches, the religious organizations, the movements that are very philosophical of our time, and we've put our security in those belief systems, and so that is really going to go by the by. We've also spent a lot of time, this is the energy of the teacher, the philosopher, the guru, and we've spent a lot of time teaching and instructing others in certain belief systems. We've spent a lot of time individually and collectively in being the master. Well, what my word is gospel, like we have our gurus. This is connected, ruled by Jupiter, the planet of the guru. We've had our gurus that we've put on pedestals who, what they say is gospel, and we don't question it, and we don't think twice about our adherence to their preaching, whatever it happens to be in. Now that goes, we're going to see a lot of gurus take a tumble now. We're going to see a lot of people come undone now. People who were our teachers, people who were our masters, people who we looked up to and respected might actually start to crumble before our eyes. Now this can happen at a localized level and a very large scale level as well. But the people, the mentors, the inspirational figures that we admired over the next 18 months might start to come undone and be unraveled as well. Sagittarius is also broad, big picture thinking. And so it does connect with the expansion of the mind and the growth of the spirit through greater understanding, through having adventures, through travel, through experience-based insight and wisdom. There's a seeking for truth that is very present with Sagittarius. And so we're going to find that this is also going to dissolve. We can't go on our big trek through Nepal to discover ourselves any longer for the next 18 months. We're going to have to focus on more localized, nitty-gritty, inner detail work rather than knowledge that is gleaned through expansion. We're not going to be able to take pilgrimages as much any longer. We're not going to be able to take those wisdom-seeking adventures as much any longer either. Any escapades that broaden our understanding, will go by the by. Universities are going to change, I feel. Higher learning's gone online more anyway lately, and I think that's just going to escalate now. And one of the good things that is going to leave, which I'm excited about, is the zealots, the people who you cannot dissuade from their belief come hell or high water. Zealots are seen by Sagittarius. So we might see a dissolving of, zealous thinking, like I'm thinking Westboro Baptist Church or something like that. We might start to see those types of thinking, those situations where belief clouds reality also start to dissolve, also start to go within us, because we all have a tendency towards that. We can all be zealot about something that actually clouds our reality. That's going to go individually and collectively as well and dissolve. So yay for that. I'm excited about that. I think that's a very important possibility represented by this particular transit. When the South Node is in Sagittarius in a natal chart, one of the things it indicates is past lives where we have repressed our natural instincts in favor of morality and subjected our natural instincts to belief. So wherever that is present in current society, we're going to see it start to dissolve in favor of moving towards the North Node direction now. And I find this quite exciting. Where we've lost trust in our own instincts and our own common sense as human beings, as individuals, or as a collective, that is where we're going to see a shift. Now, we all know there are many countries around the world where belief overrides common sense. Maybe religion overrides common sense. And faith is put above everything else, above the human experience, above the beauty of being God's creation or a beautiful manifestation of nature. And religion and morality is put ahead of that. Well, that's about to take a tumble as well. And I've got to say, I'm absolutely thrilled to think that might be one of the results of this particular 18-month period that we're heading into. So that's what we're looking at in terms of what is being let go of. What are we rising into? What is our destiny? What are we heading towards as a collective here? Well, Gemini is about testing our beliefs through experience. So not just believing something because mum and dad have always told us it's so, or the preacher in the pulpit said it's the case. No, Gemini is about experience-based learning. And so this is what we're going to move into now. People are going to be more like, well, this was my experience. This is what I learned. Tell me about yours. What did you experience? What did you learn? And that's why I want to encourage everyone to leave your comments in the comment section below about what you experienced, because that is where our greatest learning is going to take place over the next 18 months. Gemini is to use our skills and abilities in active participation with other people. Now, this is not about the teaching energy of Sagittarius. This is about sharing, networking, communicating. Like I said, what did you learn? Well, I learned this. Taking it on board. Recently there was a fabulous video put up online, a discussion between Ricky Gervais and Russell Brand. I encourage everyone to check it out, where it was a discussion of atheism versus a belief in God. And fascinating discussion. But what really stood out to me was the respect, that these two guys had for one another's opinions. They had different views, but they let one another talk. They considered one another's viewpoints, and they provided intelligent arguments back. To me, that video embodies the nature of the North Node in Gemini that we're going to see more and more and more of now. Intelligent discussion, consideration of other viewpoints, interest and curiosity in perspectives. I'm excited. This is a wonderful time. We're going to see a strong focus on the use of our skills and talents in a practical way, as I mentioned before. But there's also a need to develop a more detailed approach to things, a more localized, pinpointed, focused energy that exists with Mercury-ruled Gemini. Not only are we going to learn through our experiences, but we're going to get a lot more experiences to learn from for the duration of the North Node in the sign of Gemini. So a great chance to try new things we've never done before. Hello, lockdown. That's a new experience. I've never had that in my lifetime. It's a learning opportunity. Connectivity that will come via Gemini means, internet, social media, connecting online. That's something that's pretty, well, it's been around for a while, but the intensity of it's fairly new. We haven't seen it in this depth yet since the invention of social media and the internet. So be prepared to get a lot more new experiences entering in your life that are going to teach you new things, that are going to help your knowledge grow, but in a much more localized way, not through getting out there in the world and experiencing and discovering, gurus or anything like that, and traveling to, Mongolia for the experience and the learning process. It's now much more about what do I learn in the framework of my own network, my own social environment, my own community environment as well. So much more localized and smaller field, in some senses, smaller physical sphere, but greater electronic networks that we see, or online networks that we can see. To get the most out of this, we need to have an open mind to new ideas, to new thoughts, to new beliefs, but also new perspectives, and to pay attention to new sensory wisdom as it comes into our life. Also, have this nature of Gemini, which is the curiosity around discovery, learning new things. It's a big thing. We want to be able to seek conversations now. Look for, respectful conversational opportunities online or, over the telephone, that sort of thing, because that's where you'll learn through connection and discussion and networking. That's where you're really going to learn for the next 18 months. Seeing different viewpoints. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the old Elvis Presley song. It wasn't written by him, but it was sung by him. Walk a mile in my shoes. It is a beautiful adage that correlates to this. Going for a walk is connected to Gemini for a start, but the message of the song is to experience what I experienced before you accuse, criticize, and abuse. Walk a mile in my shoes. Understand where I'm coming from. Get some perspective from my eyes, from my shoes, of what I'm going through. And that's really Gemini season, Gemini North Node season is going to be all about that. Understanding the perspective of other people through sort of putting ourselves in their place, putting ourselves in their shoes. Exciting. This is how we learn during Gemini North Node season. We're going to learn that life is not black and white. In fact, it's not even shades of grey. It's all colours of the rainbow. And we will learn that through the complexity of life being revealed to us now, and being embracing of that rainbow, being embracing of the difference, being curious about the difference as well. This is a time for exploring, examining, leaving no stone unturned, sharing perspectives, being willing to accommodate the taboo, and most of all, being willing to enjoy the journey. Not to judge the journey, not to condemn the journey, not to be fearful of the journey, but to actually enjoy the journey. The energy of Gemini is one of curiosity and sort of that kid in a candy store kind of quality, like, oh, let me try this. Oh, let me try that. Oh, I'd love to know all about that. It's that wonderful, youthful I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to understand energy, and I think it's a beautiful thing to embrace during this time. So what can we expect? A focus on learning to listen, a focus on learning to receive information as well, and also to receive knowledge and help and support from our networks too. A focus on curiosity, as I said. The application of what we've learnt, the skills, the knowledge that we acquire during this time practically to our lives now. We're going to learn to live our lives with more wonder, more gratitude, more delight. You know, like a little toddler discovering things for the first time. This is the energy of Gemini, and it is exciting. There's a focus on more discussion now. More, and that includes disagreement, but healthy disagreement, respectful disagreement. Now there's a focus on appreciating the diversity of the world, appreciating the difference in the world. And I think this could be so empowering for us as a collective during the next 18 months. Don't we need more of this? And don't we need to say goodbye to the outmoded belief systems that have governed our lives and our world for far too long? In some case, thousands and thousands of years. It's time for them to dissolve. So bring it on. I'm excited about this journey. So let's explore now how this is going to affect you at a personal level with the transit of the nodes through whatever particular house they're going to fall in for you. So what I've discussed here is the nature of the nodes through the signs themselves, and now we're going to get down to the specific personal stuff for you. And this is where it really gets strong in your own personal life. Well, let's give Gemini the chance to go first. I don't think I've ever done Gemini first in my wheel, so aren't you guys lucky this week? For Gemini rising, you can do sun or moon as well. But the North Node is moving into your first house. So for the next 18 months, and I'll just say this fly around the chart's going to be quite a quick one this week. There is going to be an increased focus on developing your own self-confidence. It's a time for starting new things in your life, establishing new beginnings, and there's a focus on the new, the fresh, the ideas that come to you, that you'll have a lot of ideas come to you over the next 18 months, and you'll also be able to take action around those ideas. You'll be almost insatiable, as is the nature of the North Node, about those new ideas, those new entrepreneurial kind of moves, or those new creative endeavors, whatever it happens to be that you want to enact in your life. You'll have the capacity to make powerful new beginnings actually eventuate in your life without just thinking about them. They will be a thing. They will actually manifest now for you, the opportunities and the chance to make a success of them. This is a house also of independence. So you are going to find that you're going to get more independence at this time for the next 18 months. Now, that doesn't mean suddenly you're going to become single, although there will be some people who do experience that. But it's not about becoming single. It's about learning at this time to do it your way, to do it off your own bat, of your own volition, to make your own choices and instigate actions from your desires, your choices, your undertakings. So in this sense, it's going to be a time of great independence and personal empowerment for you when the North Node moves through your first house. Exciting. At the same time, the South Node is going to be moving through your 7th house. And so what this means is a releasing and a letting go of any old and unhealthy relationships that are holding you back. Also any contracts that need to be dissolved right now. So wouldn't it be nice if you paid off your mortgage and that was dissolved? No more mortgage. Yay! You're walking away free from that old contract. So that's what we're looking at here, and letting go of things that no longer are in your best interest or that serve your journey through life, that are contractual and relational. Okay, let's go to Cancer. Well, the energy of the North Node, where you're heading for the next 18 months, guys, is in the 12th house. So for you, you're going to be experiencing the North Node in your 12th house. So you can expect to have an increased passion for spiritual studies, more interest in maybe yoga practices. You'll be hungry for that, or understanding meditation better, or even just channeling divinely inspired works of art or films, or you might even get an interest in photography or something like that you just want to share with the world in an inspirational way. But yeah, an increased passion for spiritual practices and obviously divinely inspired creative practices as well. There's also going to be an increase in time alone for you during this transit as well. Now, ordinarily we might say overseas travel will give you that opportunity, but with Gemini here, and of course with everything that's going on in the world, it's going to be more localized. So you might get the chance to travel for spiritual retreat purposes, like go away to a neighboring town or something where they're offering a weekend yoga retreat or something like that. You might get the chance to do that, but really it's probably going to look more like more opportunities for localized escapism. So that can be going to a day spa, getting your nails done, something I need to do when they reopen the nail salons. Taking the time to just soak in the bath at night and read a book and have your candles around you. Those soul encouraging escapist times are what you will need more of and what you will hunger for more of. So take those opportunities as they arise in your life. Watch out also though, with this transit there can be you might find there's more secret liaisons that are occurring in your life, maybe affairs or maybe secret dealings going on behind closed doors when this is going on as well. Now that can be either on your behalf, you might be involved in those things, or you might find out about secret liaisons or secret affairs that have been going on behind your back or something. So do be careful of those sorts of things. Don't be suspicious, allow to unfold what needs to unfold, but know that this is a time when those sorts of things may actually eventuate in your life for one reason or another. Now, at the same time as you've got this going on, you've got the South Node moving through the sign of Sagittarius, which happens to be your 6th house. So you're going to find that over the next 18 months of this transit of the nodes, you're probably going to let go of old habits, old routines, maybe some old health practices that aren't actually in your best interest any longer. Maybe, let's use an example. Maybe you've been, you've run every day for the last 20 years of your life. And suddenly when the South Node moves through your 6th house, you realize my knees can't take that anymore. My body's not what it used to be. I can't hack that health routine that I was practicing. Now I've got to change that. I've got to let go of my daily running habit. Now I actually perhaps need to do some swimming that's kinder on my joints. Something like that. We also see maybe a letting go of old work responsibilities too. And of course, what's going on right now in the world, everyone's work lives have changed. Some people have had more responsibilities dumped on them. Other people have less. And we're going to see a shift, a change for Cancer rising people quite strongly with regard to work responsibilities. They're going to alter in some way, usually dissolve or lessen. That might mean you change jobs. That might mean you, depending also on if you've got any planets in this that are going to be triggered by eclipses and so forth coming up. But we're going to see some changes regarding your work responsibilities. This is also the house of service, so how you serve might be dissolving now. Maybe you've always, worked at a soup kitchen every Friday night or something, and suddenly for some reason that just is no longer a thing, and that dissolves no longer in your life, and the way you serve goes through a change and a shift now. Maybe moving more away from serving and helping and supporting others now, and creating more of a focus on your spiritual needs and your need to detach a little bit and have time out and go into self and spirit. So that's what we might see if we are Cancer rising for the next 18 months. If we're Leo rising, well, the North Node is falling up here. I'll use my pointer. Up here in your 11th house. So you can expect more opportunities for new exciting friendships, new group circles. This may happen online. It's happening in the sign of Gemini, so you might find that you're involved in sort of group activities that are online or social groups online, that sort of thing. There's a lot more of that sort of thing going on right now. This is also the house of goals and dreams and ambitions, and so your goals might become more daring under the influence of the North Node being here. You might be more willing to take a risk with sort of profit-making endeavors that are presented to you, and you might be willing to invest in the stock exchange, which you may never have done before in your life. If you're Leo rising, now's a good time to perhaps consider doing that. Also, for you Leo rising people with the North Node in Gemini here, you can have success in those ventures. There's success to be had through the markets, that's ruled by the 11th house, through any profit-making endeavors that you happen to undertake. So exciting times in that regard for Leo people. So, whatever you've been dreaming of, whatever goals or ambitions that you've had maybe for years, now's the time to actually enact them, because with this influence you can have success in your ventures and gains with your ventures. So yeah, go for it, guys. You're very lucky under this influence. But there's a release at the same time with the South Node here in your 5th house, Sagittarius. There is actually a release of maybe an unhealthy romantic situation. Maybe you've been dating someone and they've been pulling you down, and you've been feeling lackluster and life is hard work rather than the joy and full of spontaneousness and romance and delight that should usually be the case when we're looking at a 5th house relationship. So for Leo rising sun or moon people, there might be the need to let go of that sort of situation. You might also find that there is going to be less time for fun, for joy, for pleasure, because the South Node is going to dissolve those things out of your life a little bit more for the next 18 months. That's just a natural occurrence. When we throw our passion into our goals and dreams and ambitions, we have less time for going out to concerts or sitting in front of the movie with a bowl of popcorn with our friends or something. That just grows less because now we're driven on achieving our goals, our dreams and our ambitions. So you might find that there's just less time for the pleasurable pastimes, the fun, the romance, that sort of thing that usually happens under, that you'll have less time for that because of the South Node moving through the 5th house that represents and rules all those things. So for Virgo rising people, well, the North Node is falling in, there we are. The North Node happens to be falling in your 10th house. So this is what you're going to get more of over the next 18-month period during this transit. And this means more passion, because the North Node has a very passionate quality to it. More passion, more opportunities to rise up in your career. Hello, very exciting. Even though the world has changed, this influence is still going to be present for you. Maybe, even if you're working from home or you're in lockdown or something, it actually brings you the opportunity to have a more influential position or to get a pay rise or to get a management role or something like that. So don't think that just because the world has shifted that, oh, you're doomed. With this going on, North Node in the 10th house, the opportunity is there for you to have a rise in your career or your social status. It doesn't actually have to be career. This is the house of the legacy we leave behind us. And so, it could be the worldly achievements that you want to accomplish. It could be to do with social status or the public roles that you want, your sense of authority. There's going to be less time because of that spent on family matters. Now, this is the house of family. It sits opposite the 10th house. And the South Node of disillusion has moved into that realm. So you can expect during the next 18 months that, there's less time and attention able to be given to family matters, to private matters, to your emotional state even as well. Also, this represents your home, your place of living. So that might change. It might go through a shift in some way. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to have a home to live in. That's not what I'm talking about here at all. But it might change in some way. And where you've always felt was home for you no longer feels quite like home. And you make a change, you make a shift. You dissolve that place of living in some way in exchange for something that feels more aligned with you now. A letting go and a releasing that occurs around home or a domestic situation in some way. Okay, that's for Virgo. Libra rising or sun or moon people, depending on what you want to look at. we'll see this energy of Gemini falling in their ninth house. So this is what you're going to get more of because the North Node has just moved in there and it's insatiable. It wants more. It wants gimme, gimme, gimme. So for you guys, new educational opportunities, and this is likely to occur online. Hello, Gemini, which is very much about networking and social media and the mechanisms for communication these days, not conventional learning, not conventional university style education. It'll happen in a different way, but new educational opportunities. You might get a passion for well, we can't travel at the moment, but there might be a passion for other cultures. So you might read more about other cultures. You might get stuck into some travel books or travel guides and daydreaming about your chance when it comes to be able to get out there and explore it. You might follow a few new Instagram pages that are about world travel and exotic places and that sort of thing. So you're going to be more interested in that, and you actually ordinarily in non-COVID-19 times you would have what it takes to make world travel occur for you in your life. And who knows, by the end of this 18-month period, that might be a thing. Suddenly we're all given the freedom to go traveling, and you jump on a plane at the first opportunity. So who knows, you've got 18 months to see this eventuate. But ordinarily we might see that the North Node in the ninth house gives you the capacity to make foreign travel actually a thing in your life. You can also, if you're Libra rising, develop some very new and foreign belief systems at this time. And we talked about the fact that a lot of the belief systems we've had are dissolving now. So for you guys, for Libra rising or Sun or Moon people, you're going to be more drawn to ideologies and belief systems and philosophies that are a bit more foreign now because of the North Node's influence here. So, check out Tibetan Buddhism or, explore that very different ancient Celtic form of astrology or something, and get stuck into that and enjoy the different cultural experience that it brings you. Also, you might find that you get to connect with people from foreign cultures. And of course, we're doing that online a lot these days anyway, but who knows, you might actually have people come into your sphere of life that are from foreign cultures and that you develop new friendships with. I mean, Gemini is a very friendly sign, so you may develop new friendships cross-culturally with other people through the internet, or, perhaps later on in this 18-month period, face-to-face. Now, opposite Gemini is Sagittarius, and in your case, Libra people, this is your third house where the South Node has just moved. And the third house represents, in Vedic astrology, mundane affairs, everyday mundane stuff. It also represents the skills of our hands and our talents and abilities. So it's in this realm that we're going to get less of. When we have the South Node sitting in the third house, it can indicate that we're a bit indecisive as well, because this is our mental processes. So we might find that the way we think is a little bit, running around like a crazy person in some senses. This energy in the third house actually represents our quick mental energies and the way our mind functions. And with the South Node here natally, it actually indicates that in past lives you've been a bit scattered mentally and sort of always wanting to have all the information before you take any action, and give me more information, tell me about this, I want to know. And so with that kind of mentally focused energy, you're probably going to experience a lessening now with this South Node moving through the third house, a lessening now of that reactive mental approach, which is great because you want to focus now, guys, Libra rising people, on reflection, on developing your philosophies of life, developing your understanding, and developing new belief systems right now during this transit. So you're going to let go of the I must have all the information, and now you're going to be more like, well, let me understand what is the higher perspective here, what's the higher knowledge here. Essentially, in a nutshell for you guys, for the next 18 months, you're going to be learning to act on your faith and not your knowledge, because this is the realm of life where we act on our knowledge and our skills and our experience. But for you guys, the North Node is in the house of your faith and belief. So that is where your energy is going to be directed and your action is going to be taken regarding, what feels right to you. Your intuition, your faith is going to be what you put your emphasis on rather than everything that's up here. I hope that makes sense. It is kind of contrary to the energy of Sagittarius and Gemini in and of themselves, which ordinarily, without trying to confuse everyone, is usually flipped around the other way. And Sagittarius rules the 9th house and Gemini rules the 3rd house. So their energies in this instance are kind of flipped, and so it can be a little bit confusing. So for Libra, we've just done Libra. For Scorpio rising people, well, hello guys. This is going to put the North Node energy into your 8th house. So wherever the North Node goes is what we're ravenous for, what we crave, what we're passionate about. So for the next 18 months, you might be passionate about secrets and mysteries. You might suddenly develop, an intrigue it's probably there for you guys as Scorpio rising or Sun or Moon people already, but the intrigue in, Agatha Christie novels might just, really increase, or you're reading Poirot like it's going out of fashion. So that can increase for you an interest in the mysteries of life, but also not just crime scene investigations and so forth, but the occult. Anything that's hidden from the mainstream. You might develop an interest in shamanism now and have a real hunger for it. You might develop an interest in, understanding some sort of pagan rituals and that sort of thing that are very much the nature of the 8th house. There's also the potential that this could indicate a secret relationship coming into your life over the next 18 months. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a sexual affair, but it can. But it could just mean that, you're friends with someone that your wife wouldn't approve of, or so you keep it a secret. This friendship a secret in some way. So there's that energy there as well, that secretive energy, and the connection with the taboo. The North Node is the taboo energy. You guys, Scorpio rising people, have the potential to see sudden rises for the next 18 months in your finances as well, particularly finances that come through other people. So inheritances might suddenly come your way. You might get a legacy left to you in some manner as well. Taxes might be beneficial for you guys. Well, wouldn't that be nice? You might also find there's sudden healings at an emotional level, particularly a psychological level with this house. And so you're going to crave more of that. You're going to desire more of that energy in your sphere, and it will manifest for you the healing, the psychological, the mysterious, and also the resources that come from the community and from other people to you. It's a house of receiving from others, and so you might find that you have an increased capacity to receive over the next 18 months. But opposite that is the South Node in the sign of Sagittarius. For Scorpio rising people, the South Node in the sign of Sagittarius indicates that this might be a period where your self-worth and self-value is a bit challenged, I've got to say. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits that could come to you through the North Node in the 8th house, but you're going to be dealing with a lot of personal insecurity, quite possibly over the next 18 months. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that anything in your outer world is going to cause that, although it can, but sometimes it just happens from our values system within us being shaken, through our own mental process. You might be feeling insecure. You might feel like you've missed an opportunity. God damn it, I always, facepalm. I've missed a chance. That can crop up for you at some time over the next 18 months as well. You might feel a sense of failure that sort of pulls the rug out from under you, undermines your sense of value as well. The reason this is because the 2nd house sits opposite the house of power, the house of our power. And so when we're opposite something, we kind of go to the other extreme. So we might feel that we've lost our influence, we've lost our power. It's only an 18-month transit, and it doesn't necessarily mean that, doom, gloom, and disaster is what you're heading into. What this is telling you is to practice self-forgiveness right now. to seek spirituality over materiality at this time. The South Node is a very spiritual point, so it's telling you to let go of feelings of external failure, to let go of putting your emphasis now, Scorpio people. Now's the time for letting go of putting your emphasis on material possessions and what you have and what you've accumulated. Now is the time, South Node in the second house, for focusing on spirit, self. It's also a time for reclaiming your natural power, not the power that you have in your life because you own a Porsche in the driveway or because you've got 7 bedrooms in your McMansion. It is not the time for getting power from those things. It is a time for getting power, seeking power, developing power from within at this time. It's a time for learning to develop trust as well, and also for valuing relationships. The second house has an affinity with Venus, and because of that, Venus rules our stuff, but also our relationships. So there is this need to learn to value relationships, and you'll get the opportunity to do that. The relationship with self, the relationship with a partner, with children, with family, with others in some way that might be present as well this year. The value, it's not that this is a house of relationships itself. I'm not saying that, but it is how we value our relationships. That is going to go through a refining process for you guys over the next 18 months as well. Okay, Sagittarius. Okay, guys, I know you're in for it. This next few This next few months, when you've got the South Node transiting through your sign. Let's have a look at what that's going to be all about. We'll start, though, with the North Node being in your 7th house. Well, this is where you have the chance to make some very exciting new relationships and meet wonderful, interesting new people, maybe foreign people, people from other cultures. Now, you might not actually be able to meet them face to face because of the current circumstances, but maybe online. Gemini rules anything to do with social media. You might be able to meet new, interesting cultural people online and develop some relationships and friendships with them. It's a time, the energy of the North Node is the unusual and the fascinating, the intriguing. So you could find some very intriguing people come into your life in some way. And you also have the chance to create opportunities for success in your life through partnership, through collaborations now. So if you are a Sagittarius rising person, and you've been given an opportunity for collaboration, to work with somebody over the next 18 months in some capacity, then do think about it. The energy of the North Node is drawing you to that sort of thing. So even if you haven't been offered the opportunity on a platter, maybe you could instigate some sort of collaborative effort with somebody else that is really honing in on this beautiful energy that could see a lot of success come your way. Success through partnerships is indicated for you for the next 18 months, Sagittarius rising people. Now, what we see happening with the South Node of the Moon being in your 1st house is a loss of the ego that's going to occur. The 1st house is our independence. It's how we show up in the world. It's how people perceive us. And in some way, that's going to go through a change and a dissolving period. So who you were, who you've been known for in the past, it's actually not who you're going to be known for in the future. There is a dissolving of the self, dissolving of the ego, dissolving of who you thought you were right now in order to re-emerge in another 18 months' time into who you could be and the potential of the new self. So it is actually quite important for you guys to put your energy into connections and partnerships and supports right now while you undergo this change to the self, this dissolving of the self, this letting go of all the old ways of being and the old ways of journeying through life. So look, that could look like maybe you've always been known as a brilliant psychic kind of person, and you've done this, built up this business, and you've got this wonderful psychic practice, and then along comes the South Node, and says, well, hang on, your identity is shifting now. That's actually not who you're going to be for the next trajectory of the next 18 years of this cycle. You're actually got to move into some new field. So what I really want you to do is become a naturopath. And so you start to dissolve that identity that you'd built around being this amazing psychic person, and you start to move into naturopathic healing, or whatever it happens to be, instead. So we can see this change and this shift that comes very strongly to the self and how we're journeying through life by this transit of the South Node through the first house. So expect changes to the self, but look to find some support and collaboration with others as you go through this process. Okay, for Capricorn rising people, whoops, bang, bang, bang. I'll hold it there. For Capricorn rising people, well, the north node of the moon is falling here in the sign of Gemini, obviously, for the next 18 months, and that happens to be your 6th house. So when we have this insatiable, passionate indicator, the north node moving through the 6th house, you'll have a passion for order, for cleanliness, for having that tidy home, for efficiency, for creating, good opportunities at work, for new health routines and new routines around well-being to enter into your life. You might find that there's opportunities, not so much for promotion, but to do good work, to serve others and to actually have some project success, not so much personal success, but project success in how you're serving others in some way in the world through your work or through maybe doing some sort of charity or something like that. So you're getting more of those sorts of things. You'll have a nice tidy house and garden, and you'll be cooking really healthily and all that sort of stuff for the next 18 months, which could be really fun and enjoyable. Now, the opposite of that though, Capricorn rising people, is the South Node sitting in your 12th house, which is the sign of Sagittarius. This is where what you're going to get less of. You might find over the next 18 months that you have very little time to yourself, less alone time, less introspective time, less chance for a holiday, less opportunity to sort of get away from it all and escape. It just doesn't seem to be the opportunity. Maybe because you're working very hard on your new routine, your new, work project, your health routine, or whatever it happens to be. But there's just less time for the spiritual, less time for the self-introspection, less time for escaping now. But it's very good to have the South Node in the 12th house if you want to let go of addictions, if you want to let go of any self-sabotaging kinds of behaviors. This is the time to really work on those things, because the South Node is going to allow you to let go of that easily now. So take the time to do that introspective work, to get rid of those things, to see where you're self-sabotaging yourself, to see where, what you're addicted to. And, we all have vices and things. So, do look at those things, because that is where you can let it go now. You can release it and it'll happen easily. So if you want to give up cigarettes, well, you're under a great influence with the South Node in the 12th house for the next 18 months to do that. If you've always wanted to give up the drinking or whatever other addictions you might have, this is the transit that happens once every 18 years, where the opportunity to, dissolve and release those things easily, it just happens. So get into it, make the most of that if there's anything that you need to let go of that nature. So for Aquarius rising people, well, you guys are having the Gemini Sagittarius axis on your 5th house and 11th house. So with the North Node in the 5th house, this is what you're going to get more of. This is what you'll be passionate about and insatiable about for the next 18 months or so. You might develop, Aquarius rising people, passion for center stage roles, for being, in a performance position. That might not be on, treading the boards. It might be online. It might be on YouTube. It might be on some new, as yet uninvented platform. You might invent the platform. Aquarius is the sign of the inventor. More center stage roles, more fun. Hooray! The Aquarius people have really needed this. They've been through the ringer, especially with all that action in their 12th house for the last couple of years. So it's time, guys, for some fun, and you'll get more of it with the North Node moving through the 5th house. So very pleasing for you guys in that sense. More chances to enjoy entertainment and pleasures and fun, obviously. More children. Now, if you've been in a situation where you haven't had much opportunity to see your children or spend time with your children, the North Node moving through your 5th house of children can bring those opportunities to you now, where you spend more time with your kids and you're going for bike rides on weekends, or you're just actually able to interact more with your children now. So that is exciting and positive as well. More creative opportunities to express your creative intelligence that come your way. You might find you've got time now to do a bit of painting on weekends that you haven't done since uni days or something. So lots of fun there. Increased actually opportunity for fame too, if that's something that you want and desire and are good at or prone to, then you can actually have some success in realms of fame at this time. Might be a good idea to launch that YouTube channel, or that social media page, or that website that you've always wanted to, because you could actually have a lot of success with it under the influence of this North Node. You might also find that there is an increase in exciting and romantic relationships in your life, which could be fabulous. However, the South Node falls in your 11th house in the sign of Sagittarius. So you're going to be letting go of some friendships that have been present in your life, perhaps. People who just, their time has come, enough's enough, and time to let go, time to dissolve those friendships. You might be less interested in financial gain now, because this is a gainful house, the 11th house, and you might be less interested in that and more interested in having a good time with the South Node here and the North Node in the 5th house. This is also the house of our goals and ambitions. So your goals and ambitions can suddenly dissolve. You've always wanted to produce that wonderful work of fiction, and you've worked on it for the last 20 years or 18 years, and suddenly the South Node goes through your 11th house and it doesn't matter anymore. You don't really care. Now I think I'd rather go and listen to a play, go to a play or two, and rather than spend time working on that novel that I was writing. So we kind of, our dreams and ambitions and goals kind of take a tumble, I guess is the word, or lessen to some degree, or lose their importance in our sphere right now. So that's what we can expect with Aquarius rising and how they're going to experience the nodes. Pisces rising people, or sun or moon, you can look at those if you'd like to. Well, this is an interesting one, because for Pisces and also for Virgo people, this is a mutable energy, and the nodes are moving into the other two mutable signs, Sagittarius, Gemini. So when you've got the North Node moving through your 4th house, there is going to be an increase for the next 18 months, Pisces people, an increase of focus on family, maybe even a new beginning with regard to your place of living. I'm a Pisces rising. I like that idea. A new community, a new environment that you'll call home might eventuate under this influence. There's also more of a passion with the North Node here for better vehicles and better houses. So hopefully the North Node actually brings you those things if you're in need of that sort of thing. I know my children have outgrown our little Mazda 3 that we've had since they were toddlers, and it's certainly on my radar to try and get something that can house their big long teenage legs. But who knows, under the North Node influence, that might exactly eventuate for me. So we have a passion and a desire to improve our domestic life now, to make it work better for us, to have a more comfortable home, or just we have aspirations for a better home, better domestic environment, and better cars and things like that. So that can be very helpful right now as well. We are focused on our family and the needs of our family and making our family lives work better. So at the same time though, we've also got, if we are Pisces rising, we have the South Node moving for the next 18 months through our 10th house. So there's a release now of some of the social status that maybe we've been building for a while, or maybe a release of the career responsibilities that we've had. Maybe, I hope not too much, but anyway, maybe we've been spending a lot of time and energy building our career in some regard, and suddenly, it's not so important to us. It doesn't matter as much as it once did to build our career. We might have to sort of let go of, our aspirations for certain types of worldly achievement with the movement of the South Node through here. Maybe we need to let go of a perception of what our authority in the world should be, and we're not achieving perhaps that position of social status or position of authority that we thought we deserved right now, and it's a letting go of that energy. The lesson with this transit of the South Node through the 10th house is to develop our inner security, our sense of inner well-being despite changes in our outer well-being, in our outer circumstances. Now, I'm not saying that your external security is about to vanish like a puff of smoke. What I am saying is that it's no longer going to be as fulfilling for you. And, you may have built up a fabulous social status or career or something like that, but it's actually not going to give you the buzz that it once did for the next 18 months, because you'll be more concerned about your home, your family, or the community in which you live, or developing a sense of belonging now. So when we see the South Node, the South Node, yes, going through the 10th house, it doesn't mean that suddenly you're going to lose everything. It means it's going to lessen in its importance, lessen in its value to you over that period. So just know, if you're Pisces rising, that it is quite all right to focus on the family, to focus on your domestic needs for the next 18 months, because that is where the energy is drawing you, and it doesn't mean you're going to lose all your social status or career and what have you. But you can actually focus your energy on the home life, knowing that that's what you're being called to put your attention to at this time. All right, so Aries rising people. All right, we have got the South Node falling in your 9th house and the North Node in your 3rd house. So what does this mean for you guys for the next 18 months of this transit? You guys, for Aries rising, Sun or Moon people, are going to be very focused on developing your skills and abilities right now. This is where the energy of the insatiable, passionate North Node is. So you'll be really enthusiastic, perhaps, about developing, some networking opportunities, or creating a new platform to rival YouTube. Please do it. You might find that you've got this desire to learn woodworking or to do hairdressing or something like that, and you really want to go down that path of learning some sort of new skills. Insatiable passion for new skills, new talents and abilities here. And we're talking technical skills here, the practical skills, or the everyday skills of our ordinary activities, our mundane, we call them, activities. As I said, networking is going to be very important for you guys. You're going to put a lot of time and energy and effort into that. You might develop much more of a social media presence over the next 18 months. You also might enjoy taking short, localized trips, especially once lockdown is over, but there might be a need now to do more localized travel. So, maybe you have developed, like I said, some new platform to rival YouTube, and you need to go around all your local cities, sort of speaking at seminars in, maybe in a year's time or something, and you're speaking at seminars, giving the information about this new platform, and get on board and doing the promotion and doing the advertising and marketing for this new platform that you've developed that requires some localized travel. So that's what we're seeing for Aries rising people. There's a lot of energy and action being put into your skills development, and then doing some sort of promotions of those skills and networking and speaking about whatever those skills and abilities are. You guys are going to have a lot more emphasis on communication, writing, speaking, and development of skills at this time. But at the same time, you're going to have less of an influence coming from the ninth house in your chart. So this means while you're going to have success with communications and marketing and sales and media, you're going to be releasing your old thought patterns, your old beliefs about certain things. You guys, Aries people, more than any other sign, are going to be releasing, as I said in the intro, that zealousness for a certain, thought process or belief, or, you guys are going to be releasing the connection to certain mentors and inspirational figures that are actually not on your same page any longer. So more than any other sign, what I described in the intro is going to apply to you in terms of what you are releasing for the year ahead. Ninth house things. So a lessening of opportunities to travel overseas, a lessening of interest in other cultures, a lessening of your belief systems and the zealousness that you put into those belief systems as you embrace new ideas, new skills, new connections, and more localized focus in your life. So for Taurus rising, and thank you, Taurus people, for waiting so long for your turn to come. Those of you who are Taurus rising or sun or moon, either way, this energy is falling in your second house axis and the axis of the 8th house. So when we have the North Node in the second house, this is what you're going to get more of. This is what you're going to be passionate about in the coming 18-month period. So there's going to be a passion now for Taurus people to make money, and you guys are probably fairly passionate about that anyway. So increased focus on making money, increased opportunities that will come to you for making money as well. You might have a greater passion for the practical matters of life. We need a new bed, mattress, because the old one's worn out. So there's a focus on, let's get that done in this next 18-month period. Let's organize that new bed. Let's research which are the best beds, and we'll find the best bed for us. And you actually put your energy and focus in that realm of the resources for living and what you need to make life work for you at its best level, practically, materially. It's also a time when you might find a lot more practical sources of income coming your way, and that's refreshing given these times. You might see the ideas, the opportunities to make new income streams available that you might otherwise have caught on with. When the North Node was in Cancer, you wouldn't have thought of this particular wonderful idea for making money. Then in goes the North Node into Gemini, your second house, all about the practical resources for life and how to generate an income. Suddenly the ideas come to you. Suddenly you get the wisdom and the knowledge you need to put that new idea or that venture into action. But opposite to that is the South Node in Sagittarius, which is what we're releasing, what we're letting go of. And this for you is your 8th house. So coupled with this material success, you are learning to do this off your own bat rather than relying on other people to help you with your material success. So it's going to be something that you instigate yourself over the next 18 months. You're going to have the ability to do things on your own 2 feet in terms of creating resources for yourself rather than depending on other people. With the South Node in the 8th house as well, you will probably most likely have the capacity to let go of some old stuff, some old traumas, some old hang-ups and beliefs that are not helping you. So do some psychological work, guys, over the next 18 months. Get into the therapy practices and get into the journaling, and take time out for introspection and what have you. Because for Taurus rising people, there has never been a better time than when the South Node is in their 8th house for letting go of the past, letting go of the old traumas, the old wounds, the old psychic gunk and muck that's sitting down there in your belief systems. So therapy is seen by the 8th house, and so do it. Get into the therapy and let go of the reason we need to do therapy. The South Node dissolves wherever it goes, so it's going to be dissolving those old hang-ups. You might find there's a dissolving also of maybe you've been involved in some criminal activities or something underhanded, or involved in the underworld in some way, and South Node moving through here can give you the chance to let go of that, to release that, to sort of say, I don't want to be part of that anymore. I'm going to turn over a new leaf and make a fresh start. So in that sense, it can be very beneficial if you need to let go of some old associations that were quite toxic and unhealthy, maybe some old dramas as well. If you have some jealousies or some intensity around something that you're sick of, you're sick of an obsession, you're sick of a paranoia, and you just want to get rid of it, now is the time you can do that as well. Maybe again through therapy, or maybe again through just putting some boundaries in place that are needed. The South Node is going to give you what it takes to let that go, to dissolve it out of your life and release it. So in that sense, it could be very beneficial for you, Taurus rising people. So that's what we see unfolding, not only for the week ahead, guys, but also for the next 18 months as the nodes move through each individual house, depending on what your rising sun or moon sign happens to be. Well, let me close with a prayer. I like to do that. I like to invite the energy of love into our week. So join me for that. Energy of love and beauty in the universe. Thank you for the magnificence of our world, of our earth that we love and care for so much. Thank you that you have set the moon and the stars in their places that influence our lives in order that we might learn, we might grow and evolve as souls. May your love flow to everyone over this next 18-month period so that they might channel the benefic possibilities of the South Node and the North Node and the South Node, and all that they represent in terms of letting go and embracing in our lives. We just thank you for the magnificence of the cosmos, and we're so delighted to be a part of it. May we be blessed for the next 18 months as individuals and as a collective on this wondrous planet. And so it is. Well, thanks for joining me. I'll have another Astro Weather Report for you, and I hope you join me for that next week.